Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar called Quality Management for Manufacturers and Inventory-Centric Businesses. Before we begin, I'd like to discuss the housekeeping notes with you all. This console is meant to be very interactive, so feel free to enlarge some of your screen sizes or minimize them, whatever you want to do, and whatever you think fits your style of learning in this webinar. And also, we are here to provide you with answers, so please feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A box, and the Q&A box is located on the bottom of the screen. And lastly, we have a load of resources for you to peruse. And that would be in the resource list, which is in another box on the bottom of the screen. And with that said, I'll pass it off to Debbie, who will discuss the agenda.
All right, so today we're going to talk about the quality management suite for Acumatica. So first, Ralph is going to explain the importance of a quality system. We'll take a look at the receiving and shipping production process flows for inspection and testing within our QMS system. We'll look at other features that are also handled within quality, like non-conformance, CAPA, traceability, documentation, ad hoc testing. And then Ralph is going to share with you where you can find more information about the quality module. And then at the end, you'll hear some customer testimonials. And then finally, we'll wrap it up at the end with some Q&A. So to get it started, I'll introduce myself first. I'm Debbie Baldwin. I work for Acumatica as the Director of Product Management. I've been at Acumatica now for about 3.5 years. I was born and raised in Columbus, Mississippi, where I actually worked at 2 different manufacturing facilities. My first job where I worked was about 12 years at a company that made patient drapes for the operating room, and the second was a company that made non-woven material. I now live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I've been here for about 20 years. And I'm really excited to be presenting with Ralph today. We presented a number of sessions together, and I know you guys are in for a treat. So Ralph, if you'll introduce yourself.
Thanks. I'm Ralph Kubek. I'm Director in eWorkplace Apps, focusing on sales and relationships. Is an educational background. I started out as a CPA and a partner in a CPA firm. So if someone asks how you go from a partner to a CPA firm to doing what I'm doing today, that's how life takes you, and that's a different story. I've been with the Workplace Apps since we started the venture with Acumatica to bring this quality solution into Acumatica to allow Acumatica to even be more supportive of the quality needs of its users. And I'm around Chicago, Illinois.
All right, so let's get started. A little bit about the Quality Management Suite. It was developed by eWorkplace Apps. The module is 100% developed using the Acumatica framework. It's fully integrated with accounting, purchasing, manufacturing, distribution, shipping, receiving. The product is certified by Acumatica, which means that it's always current with the latest release. And with that, now I'd like to pass the baton to Ralph, who's chomping at the bits to tell you all about quality.
Very good. Thank you, Debbie. First, we just want to take a little bit of step back and look, quality, right? Quality is important from a variety of aspects, and there's 3 major areas that people usually think about quality. The first one is the internal needs. People need to begin to test and validate that products are good, that we need to quarantine items, we need formal processes if things were not to be correct, and we need corrective and preventive action. We need some checklists, and most importantly, right, we need performance and KPIs that tell us how well we are performing. A key part of a solution like ours and how we work with Acumatica is this idea of integrated quality management. Very important, particularly that first piece is our solution, and a quality solution needs to make certain that it's tightly integrated with ERP so that the test and the variety of things that quality is doing are integrated into the ERP experience so that you can't sell or receive or accidentally make or ship a product that hasn't been tested. Clearly, it needs to be simple. You need to have one form of the truth, and we want to eliminate multiple places to look at things. Then there's the customer and industry requirements, right? We have some clients that require C of A's or like documentation to customers. The customers want to begin to gather some information with regards to nonconformances. There's recall and traceability reports. In certain industries, 15 minutes after an auditor walks in, you have to have a cradle-to-grave traceability report of some of the products that you're doing. And the key thing, this is all digital. As Debbie indicated, this is all done on an integrated basis within the Acumatica infrastructure. There's then industry standards, right? Every industry has its own standards. Here, I think what we need to point out is that while we have a robust quality management system to fill in gaps, which I'll speak to in a second, Acumatica itself has many areas that will help an entity address some of these things. Think of the Acumatica engineering change control process, its security processes. So it is not the QMS module on its own that will allow you to establish credibility or be validated or certified in any of those. It's really the complete Acumatica solution, and we're just part of that solution. And I'll point out a couple areas of that when we look at the product itself. Also, it's important to know how this is integrated, because I will talk about document control and a few other things. When we started this venture with Acumatica, I think we were pigeonholed into manufacturing. Part of that is our firm's background. The other part is related to a different product that we're working on with Acumatica with regards to process manufacturing. But I think it's overlooked the importance of QMS for distributors. Inventory-centric based systems, as the seminar title alludes to. Why? Because it is important in many of those cases, right? We're distributing drugs, we're distributing food. There needs to be some process controls. And what you'll see in a little bit is our specific solution with Acumatica is really intended to fill in 3 gaps. We first of all want to test a product and validate that it equals the standards for which it is set. During that process, we want to make certain we quarantine the item, again, prevent it from being sold, used, etc. We also, in this planning phase, want to make certain that entities who have checklists, things that need to be done. Is the truck clean? Is it the right temperature? Think of those standard operating procedures. We want to document those within Acumatica. So now Acumatica is controlling the fact that, yes, the environment is such that we will create a good product, or we just received a good product, and then the product will validate, yes, it actually meets our specs. So we're going to go through how we handle a sample of receiving, going through that piece. There's also the need for distribution in terms of shipping. I must have clicked through, but in shipping, in many cases, you're taking things off the shelf. The people who are involved in the process are going to have to validate that, yes, this is the right product. Maybe there's some requirements of how it's packed. Maybe there's some requirements in terms of the how long the shelf life of the item that you're sending. So I'm going to move actually into the product itself. And I hope people can now see, because I can't see it on my screen, you should see an Acumatica screen that has a purchase order receipt on it.
Ralph, we don't see your screen yet.
Okay. Share. Hopefully you see it now.
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
So this is, again, a critical piece as it relates to, I'll describe the process, the story we're going through, as well as the integration. So what I've just done is I'm the person within Acumatica who is responsible for doing some PO receipts. And I'm going to try to release this. Well, one of our standard operating procedures is that we have to document that the truck is okay. So we have something called generate QC inspection order. So what's this QC inspection order? It's a list of questions that you will define, but think of this being frozen food, where someone in their standard operating procedures might have to indicate 2 things. They need to record the temperature of the truck, and then they have to indicate that the truck is clean. Because in some cases, a distributor might say, if it doesn't pass these 2 tests, we're going to turn the truck around. We're not going to unload it. We're not going to accept responsibility for that product because the likelihood of the product not meeting spec is not there. Now I'm going to try to release the product. You can see the first control that we have is going through and saying, okay, the truck is okay. Now what we're doing is to quarantine this item to prevent it from being used or sold. We actually do an automatic transfer into a quarantine location. You will set that up, but think of the Acumatica capability in the location area where an item can't be sold, it can't be used, it can't be moved. You can actually say, you know what, while this is sitting in quarantine, we don't want the available quantity to include this, but however, you might want MRP to look at it. We've also generated a QC order. It's a transaction within our system. There's dashboards and other things, if we had more than 20, 22 minutes to go through this, that we could look at where people could be alerted. But all the alerts, all the dashboard functionality that exists within Acumatica to tell me as the QC person that I need to do something is how I could be attached to this. The top part here is header information. It's beginning to tell us what someone probably wrote down on their clipboard a long time ago, what vendor this is coming from, what the item number is, how are we sampling this. We do support ALQ sampling, so that's going to tell you how many to sample and what tests need to pass, etc. I mentioned a key thing with quality is document management, and we will probably never develop a product management because Acumatica has one, and we want one holistic solution within the Acumatica framework. So if I'm that person on the dock and I have to scan up a C of A form or maybe take a picture of something, it's all within that system. Now I'm going to go to the bottom, and the bottom is the key part of what we're doing is someone has decided that when this material comes in, these are the tests that we need to perform. And one of the tests could be alphanumeric, which is I just have to indicate a color. Now the next couple I'm going to purposely fail. And I'm just going to indicate that these values are way off. You can see the system is telling me it's to fail based upon how I'm refreshing my Acumatica screen. It's going to tell me a color, but I am going to pass this last test. Quality, again, more than testing, is the fact that we need some audit trails, right? So we are always writing back a complete audit trail indicating who did what when. So if we do have to be validated, if we are audited, all of that information is there. Now that I've gone through and entered in the results based upon how you set up your sampling, based upon how you set up your ALQ or acceptance criteria, we will then suggest to you whether this item passes or fails. And again, I purposely failed this just to get into one other area pretty quickly in terms of this presentation. This is all security driven, so someone could have the capability of entering in just tests, someone else does the validation, and then the last piece of this is posting the results. Why do I need to post these results? Because this is sitting in that quarantine location, and because it's sitting in that quarantine location, I need to do something to move it out, and in my case, right, I'm going to just move it into a reject bin, and now I'm going to post this out. So that's the complete livelihood. We indicated that someone had to check this item when it came in. We verified, first of all, our standing operating procedures were correct. The truck was clean. We then actually tested the item, and in this case, it was rejected. And I purposely rejected it just so that you see the combination Debbie did allude to, the fact that we deal with non-conformance capital workflows, right? What happens when something fails? And now you can see we have a direct tie in to a corrective and preventive action form. So now I could trace this through. It's telling me the test that failed, etc. So a complete cradle to grave type process of controlling a failure. Now I'm going to say, you know what, we had the success of being able to sell something. So now I'm at a shipment screen with Acumatica, and I'm going to say we're all done, and I'm the person on the dock that's going to say, you know what, I want to confirm this shipment. Again, we have a gate in because in our controls, we're saying two things need to happen. We, first of all, want that person on the dock to say, I need to inspect something. I need to go in our standard operating procedures. In the old day, might have been a checklist or an Excel document because this is food stuff. I have to document that that truck that just came in is clean. So I sign off on that. Now the next thing is I need to generate a QC order. Why? Because there's some specific tests that this customer wants to see before we ship it to him. There's a noise test, and he has a specific range of noise that he's expecting. And in his case, there's some final marks that we need to validate. So this is the same screen, which is why I didn't take any time explaining this. It's that standard quality order screen. And now I've been able to indicate, yes, our standing operating procedures have been followed. Yes, I've appropriate tested this. And now I could actually post those results. And now if I go back to that order, we have a complete trail in the audit trail history indicating that we've inspected this item. We've tested this item, right? If I scroll over, I actually see the fact that this order is tested. I could drill down. This is all ready to go. And now I can confirm the shipment. And this shipment now could go out, and now it's the standard Acumatica operating procedures. So again, our goal here is to say that what we don't want to do is we don't want to have product that doesn't meet specification coming in. We don't want product that's going out meet specification in. So we've embedded quality steps to not only make certain that the product is correct, but also that we followed our standard operating procedures. Now I'm back to the PowerPoint, or I should be, and this also affects production. So we want to make certain that we are making correct parts. Breaks down into two pieces again. Parts, we need to make certain that we inspect things while it's in process, so we catch defects and begin to fix those as early in the process as we can, as well as, again, there's situations where we have certain standard operating procedures. I'm a powder metals manufacturer, so I'm taking that powder metal and I'm heating it. So part of my process before I even make the parts is to make certain that the temperature is set, the conveyor's moving the correct speed through the oven, because if I don't do that, I could test all I wish, but the product is still not going to meet its specifications. So what does that mean? I'm going to share my screen again and go back into Acumatica. And Debbie's going to tell me that we could see a bill of materials screen, I hope.
Yep.
So what we do is now when you turn on quality for manufacturing, we begin to see that at every routing step, we could say quality needs to be informed. What tests that quality person is going to be performing in that step. And again, it could be at every step. And then we have these inspection plans. So what this is saying is that before I start this order, or in my case, the way I set this up, is part of validating that we're okay. I need to, again, as we spoke about, indicate that the oven speed was okay. What does the control really look like in Acumatica? Again, I've created a manufacturing order in the period before. I'm going through and actually doing that core Acumatica release. This is saying, production person, you can't move that. You need to do something. So in this case, I'm actually going to change hats a little bit, and I'm going to pretend I'm the quality person, and I'm going to go to my quality dashboard. There's a lot of people that do a lot better job creating quality dashboards than I do, but just an example, right? We have all this data, and we can begin to track vendors. How are they doing? What items are being rejected, etc. More importantly, all these dashboards, as people know, flash and blink, or I just have a running list that's indicating that, yes, I need to do some testing. So now I'm in this QC order, same screen, same capability, but now this is telling me how I need to inspect this, 100% inspection because of this item. It's letting me know the QC order and all the details. And here, there's just a couple readings. I'm going to pass these because we do want to finish production of this item. I'm going to enter in the details, and I'm going to evaluate this. So now what we've done is we've stopped the manufacturing process. We put a halt in it. Someone saying, yes, these readings are okay. A different person or the same person based upon security could go ahead and post those results. Now, I'm going to go back to my dashboard, and there's probably also a different inspector, or could be a different inspector, at least in terms of what I set up, that's indicating that, wait a minute, I also had to go in, and this is where I had to document the fact that the oven was clean, and I need to document that the oven speed is correct. So again, we wanted to do two things in this process. We wanted to validate that the item was being made correctly, and the environment of that item to make that item was correct. So now if I go into the move, the fun about doing live demos is hopefully I clicked all the right boxes, but now you could see this is being released. and is now being moved in. So we are catching any flaws or any issues with that item while we're actually doing the production. I'm going to go back into the move command just for a second. This is now on operation 20. If you remember when we did that bill of material, it was a two-step operation. I'm going to release this. Now, one of the areas that we test is, right, production says they're done, and now they want to put it on the shelf. But our system says, well, before you put it on the shelf, we need to test this item. So there's a flag indicating that this item has to be tested. Just like in receiving, while they should have put it into this pre-ship location, they're being forced to put it into this quality location. So again, within the scheme of Acumatica, we can now have this item quarantined. I'm just going to drill into this, right? It's the same quality control order. How I get to it is however you wish. But now we're in a situation of we had some specifications for an item. We're testing along the way. We're testing when it's finished. We're preventing from bad parts moving forward. We're preventing bad parts from going into inventory, as well as we're documenting the environment that they were made in. Because again, God forbid, if there's an issue sometime, that issue might really relate to not making the part, but the environment might not have been able to make the part. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint now, because there is things beyond this testing. And I touched on a few of them before. One of them, and you saw how we create a non-conformance and preventive action, traceability reports, vendor performance, ad hoc, and the non-conformance workflow. We saw how we can move it into MRB location. We have a non-conformance. These are adjustable a little bit, but a non-conformance says what happened, why it happened, and what we're going to do to it. Generally, a corrective and preventive action goes one step up the ladder. I need to do some detailed investigation. I really needed to take some corrective actions and prevent it. And again, the key thing is because of the way this is integrated to Acumatica or built within Acumatica, once you decide what to do with it, the return to vendor, the return to stock, the scrapping it, or even the rework is all part of the normal Acumatica processes that you've been using. Traceability, as long as you're properly using the Acumatica system and have indicated when lot numbers or serial numbers should be issued, should be tracked. We have extended it so there is a recall report, forward or backward traceability that you could run. And the next time through, that's actually in some of the material that we have on the sources that Debbie will go through. We then have vendor performance. Here, I think, again, there's been some confusion a little bit. Because people think, gee whiz, it's QMS and QMS is going to handle all this. The answer is yes, we do handle the certificates of analysis. Yes, we do handle the recall. Yes, we could do a lot of that graphing and charting as it relates to a vendor in terms of how they're doing in terms of quality and standards of tests. But remember, we have that whole other engine of Acumatica behind us. So in many cases, there's the need to have a process to say, is this vendor okay to use? Those are standard processes within Acumatica. There's processes that identify who I could buy parts with. That information is in Acumatica. We might want to begin to rate vendors based upon how they perform, performing being, have they been on time, have they been late, how have they been billing us. Remember that this quality system is just one element of the complete Acumatica system that's going to allow you to begin to address some of these issues, particularly in the performance issue. The last item is that we do have, and we're building out ad hoc testing and stability, as well as just general testing. Particularly in the food and chemical areas, there's situations where things might be sitting around the warehouse for a little bit of time, and after 30 or 60 days, you might have to test those. So we have the capability of doing that, giving traceability, etc. We also, within the quality management system, we have tools, right? The tools, calibers, and other things that we're going to use to test a product. This capability now is allowing people to have QC orders. What am I going to do to validate that caliper is correct? Sync of the same screens that we're using. We now have the capability to go in and use those tools. We could use QC to attach the testing that was done to the item. So device history record means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So I'm just going to say what you would be able to have in your database is the fact that we use this caliper, here's the test that we should perform every 3 months, and here's a history of all the tests that perform the item. And there's a number of people that are using our quality management system to do that, as well as there's some people that are selling items, and every 30 days they come back, and then they're using our system to test those items when they come back. And now, again, they have a complete item history record. How did this serial number look when we received it? How did this serial number look when we shipped it? And what did the serial number look like last week when the customer gave it back to us, asked us to rework it, and how did we approve it? Resources, there's a ton of resources that are available to find details. Clearly, the Acumatica Marketplace. On the Acumatica Marketplace, you'll see some success stories. More importantly, you'll see a lot of details with regards to what the product does. You'll also see a generic demo. The demo that I just did in maybe 12 minutes is probably 15 to 18 minutes out there, as well as there's snippets that we use for training. So if you have a question on what's a test plan, how do I sample, all of those details are out on the Marketplace. They are also on our eWorkplace website, and then there's a lot of information going back and forth in terms of the community. So along with reaching out to your partner, we're 100% committed to the partner channel. There's a number of partners that we're working with. A number of partners have deployed and are actually implementing our product, much like they implement the rest of Acumatica. So there's partners, there's the Marketplace, there's community, and there's our website to find out more details. So Debbie, I think we have about 4.5 minutes left, which I think was the plan. Maybe if there's questions, I can't see them. However, I'm viewing my board right now.
Yeah, just one thing, Ralph, before we move on to questions. If you're looking for the Acumatica Marketplace, the website, you can go to acumatica.com and click on the Acumatica Marketplace. It'll take you there. As far as Acumatica Community, you can go to community.acumatica.com. There's really good information there as well. And if you're looking for the eWorkplace Apps website, that's eWorkplaceApps.com/Acumatica. So, Ralph, thanks so much. That was really good. And let's leave it here. And Stacy, we'll turn it back to you for Q&A.
All right. So thank you, Ralph, for that presentation, and thank you, Debbie, for that transition. If you haven't already done so, please submit your questions in the Q&A box. Again, that is on the bottom of the screen. And with that said, I see questions rolling in already, so I'll ask the first one. It says, how long does it take to implement the quality management suite application in a manufacturing environment?
If you are currently using the Acumatica suite, manufacturing suite, and you have your tests and things there, so we're just really transitioning from maybe a paperwork system into Acumatica. Typically, it's a 3 to 6 week process to put QMS into a manufacturing environment. Again, if Acumatica is running and if you've already documented all your QC procedures and tests.
Okay, thank you very much. So the second question I see here says, do you offer consulting services to help us determine the best way to manage specific compliance requirements?
Yes, we do that. We do that on because of our background, right? This is quality is a process. It will not fit one glove fits all. So yes, we do provide consulting services and best practices. Clearly, we work with your partner who really understands your business fully, as well as there's a little bit of a question in there. We have some clients that are validated, right? They're FDA, et cetera, and we have some capabilities to work with you as it relates to, number one, this is what we need to do within the quality management system, but we also have some skills and capability to provide insight into if you need to go through some type of formal validation process, what you need to think about and do.
All right, thank you very much. It looks like we have time for one question really quickly. We are implementing FSSC 22K with a full lot traceability on all products back to basic source point. How does this feed and support FSSC compliance?
I think the major thing is that what we will do within that regard, and I didn't have a chance to show it, is we do have a complete lot traceability report that will show where those items went to, and because of that lot traceability report, through the life cycle of that, you will know where all of the items are tested. So it should provide you, along with all the information in Core Acumatica, the ability to meet those standards.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and then with Acumatica too, we also have the ability to, when you're creating production orders, pre-assign lot and serial numbers so that when you issue materials, you can have that full traceability from cradle to grave. So we work hand in hand with the quality system to help manage that compliance.
Okay, thank you, Debbie, and thank you, Ralph. And with that said, today, this ends our webinar for today. If you haven't had a chance to check out the resources that includes more information about quality management and Acumatica, please check out the resource list. And with that said, have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.